You are live, 98.9 Northwest FM. This is the Tuesday Review, our first show back in studio for 2026. How we doing, boys? Joined by Alan. How you going, Alan? What's made you happy in the last week?
What's made me happy? Can we come back to me? Oh, yes, Arc Raiders, actually. Arc Raiders with the boys, specifically the boys, because they do like to play without me.
And you play without us, all right?
No,
let's not go on stones.
There's a difference. There's a person being a loner, and then there's a person, two individuals conspiring and playing without the other one.
No one's conspiring, all right?
No,
I assumed you was at work, and like...
You assumed correctly.
Yeah.
But it's still not fair.
I'm sorry.
And anyway, and then you died.
Anyway, we didn't do nothing.
Yeah, and I did die, and I lost all my shit, so there you go.
Nothing good happened.
You were delivered a divine punishment.
I was delivered a divine punishment. Also joined by Callum. How you going, Callum? What's made you happy in the last week?
I have some leave coming up. That's nice.
Nice.
Yes, also joined by James. How you going, James? What's made you happy in the last week?
It's really hard to find something these days. I saw the cutest doggo ever the other day. It was one of those fat roly-poly, with the fat rolls.
The ones that can't breathe.
Roly-poly, yeah.
Oh, you had one of those, don't you?
Yeah, that's fair.
But he had all the fat. It was so cute. So yeah. What about you, Nathan?
I guess just echoing Alan's sentiments, playing Arc Raiders with the boys is always a good time, and I think it's nice having a game that we can all play and enjoy, and it suits how we play games, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit for us. Yeah. I guess we'll move it along. Unfortunately, in some respects.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about the sequel to 28 Years Later. 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple.
Mm-hmm.
Sequel's a strong word.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Because
We'll start non-spoilers.
Yeah. Because, so they shot 28 Years Later and 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple back to back. So when 28 Years Later came out about 6 months ago and we reviewed it, and we all, I think, loved that movie. It was really awesome time and very weird and bold and just energetic and just, not... we didn't know where it was going to go. Like, it was just not conventional for a mainstream movie in a lot of ways. And so we were really excited for the second part, which had already been filmed. And so we were like, well, surely this is going to be, just a continuation of this craziness. And it's just going to get bigger and bolder and crazier. And
especially since it was written by the same screenwriter.
Yeah. So Alex Garland wrote... he wrote a new trilogy, and the first two parts were shot to back to back. First part, 28 Years Later, was directed by Danny Boyle, who directed the original 28 Days Later. And 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple was directed by Nia DaCosta. But I assumed that this would be, the second half of that journey we saw begin in the first 28 Years Later. Because that movie ends on a crazy, a cliffhanger, but also like this reveal of what the hell was that?
Yeah, like a weird, kind of surreal action sequence.
Yeah. And so we were so hyped up for the Bone Temple and we couldn't wait. But unfortunately, like Callum alluded to, it's barely the sequel that it should have been, and is more like a 1.5.
It's more like an addendum to the first film.
It's like an episode that you watch before the next film comes out.
Yeah, it's also there's about and
it's not a short movie.
No,
you could make it a lot shorter and nothing would be lost.
So it's an hour. It's about an hour and 50 minutes, and I'd say there's maybe half an hour of good stuff, like really good stuff in there, and the good stuff in there is really good.
Yeah,
and I really like those parts, but the rest of the movie, which is just over an hour more, is like, did we really need a full movie for this?
I think,
especially after the first movie ended and we were like, holy crap, the sequel is going to be insane.
I think the problem, and this is one thing that Callum saw on the internet, which I thought was very apt, and I think you thought it was quite apt too, James, was that this movie feels more like a pristine television episode, right? It feels more like TV.
Yeah.
In that it's kind of self-contained story in that universe. It feels more like it should fit as a filler episode in a TV series.
Yeah.
A really good TV show.
It's like
but it feels like TV almost.
This is almost a really bad example, but it's the first thing that popped into my head. So in the Last of Us season 1 of the TV show, you're following Ellie and Joel on their adventure, and then the next episode is Frank and what's his name?
Yeah.
You know, the gay couple, and there's like a whole episode about them, and it was a great episode.
Yeah, but it's that kind of vibe. Yeah.
And then the next episode you go back to Ellie and Joel's adventure. This kind of felt like that. It was like, this is cool and all, but
what's it?
We want to get back to the adventure.
From the world of 28 years later.
Yeah, exactly. So it felt, I think I called it a side quest.
Yeah.
This was less a sequel and more just...
a DLC.
Yeah. And so in that way, it's really disappointing because after the first movie, we're like, I can't believe they shot these back to back. This is going to be this epic, this epic second half to the story we saw. But instead, it just ends up being a little side story.
It's funny because if you remember, we assumed it would be about Aaron Taylor Johnson venturing into the world of the Jimmies to try and rescue his son and all this other really interesting stuff. And we assumed the Jimmies themselves were going to be more of a society or sorts or part of a ghetto kind of community.
One of the things I loved about 28 Years Later was that it felt to me like, yes, it was a departure from the first two movies, 28 Days and 28 Weeks. But because it was that decades of it's in the future and now they're in this post-apocalyptic, like almost fantasy medieval society, and they really pushed that kind of dark fantasy, weird sort of. It was a fable about this young boy who goes on an adventure. He leaves his little town, goes on an adventure, and he learns about love and death, and we were expecting more of that. And like you said, we're expecting, his father comes up. He goes off to venture at the end of the first movie. He goes off to venture on his own. And maybe we thought maybe his father would come. And then like the reveal of the Jimmies at the end of the first movie. And we were like, that's crazy. I thought it was going to be this Mad Max-esque. Yeah. In 28 Years Later, they're like, oh yeah, there are lots of survivors out there. We stay away from them. So I was like, well, maybe the Jimmies have their own weird town, like you were saying. And maybe like in Mad Max, there's Bullet Town and there's Gas Town. And
there's
like
Jimmysville.
Yeah, exactly. So like
it's called Jamestown.
Like we thought that there was going to be this, as Spike ventures more into the mainland.
They could have called it Savile Row.
God damn.
Couple of references.
They should have.
They're wearing suits.
BBC's not listening.
But yeah, like, so we thought as Spike goes deeper in the mainland, he's going to discover more. There's going to be more craziness. He's going to go on this adventure. Maybe his dad's going to come after him. Maybe this, maybe that.
And Jimmy's like, he's a Jimmy now, and he's like, give me back my son.
Yeah. But unfortunately, none of that happened. And without spoiling it, it just takes us back to mainly just one location from the first movie, the Bone, which is the Bone Temple. And Ray Fiennes' character, who was my favorite character in the first movie, but I think him, like I said, for a whole 2-hour movie, I don't think we needed to see all of this with him and his work. Even though there was a lot I liked about that. I think it was a mistake to take the focus, the point of view away from Spike and his journey. And so the movie ends up lacking a sort of central emotional journey and a character growth, because instead you've got like Ray Fiennes' character, Dr. Kelson, who I like to call Dr. Bones. You've got him doing his work, and then you cut to the Jimmies doing violent stuff, and they've got Spike hostage, but he doesn't really do anything.
One of the issues I have with the Jimmies, this interpretation of the Jimmies, because I feel like Alex Garland's Danny Boyle's interpretation, was a lot more gonzo. It was a lot more in your face and colourful.
We only saw that basically one scene, so it promised so much,
and all that
and
energy
this movie didn't deliver.
All that energy is gone.
Yeah.
I said to Nathan, it reminds me of something you'd see, like The Cult, if you will. It's like something you'd see out of a Luther episode. like that kind of
the
TV show. It's
the
like a
Idris Elba
yeah.
show.
It's just like kind of like a random.
Oh,
street
in
yeah,
the Bone
in
Temple.
Bone Temple,
Yeah. It went,
it's like a random. They're like a street
Yes,
gang.
it went
they
from-
kill people.
yeah, it went from like this weird Power Rangers Teletubby gang that does ninja flips and uses all these weapons
To Timu a Clockwork
to
Orange.
just a bunch of chavs.
That is hilarious.
Yeah,
yeah.
So it took a lot of, and I think that also comes down to one of my issues with the Bone Temple is it lacks the energy of the first movie.
Yeah.
Where Danny Boyle was doing crazy stuff with editing and the iPhone camera work.
Yeah, the
and
chases and the stakes were so high.
Exactly, and it was
And
like
the stakes are
so
kind of just
weird.
low the entire time in this movie.
Yeah,
in a
and
way.
just on a technical aspect in the first movie, it was doing all this weird stuff, and the sound and the score in the first movie amazing.
Boots.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There was nothing
And
like that in this one.
This one is much more conventional.
Yeah.
And coming from Nia DaCosta, who's a young director, it's a shame because Danny Boyle's 70 years old and he's running I mean, he is more experienced, but it just when you lose that energy,
I think the problem is it's also kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because it's like if you try to do all that adventurous stuff and you fail, then she could be like, oh no, I've ruined my career.
Yeah, to be fair to Nia DaCosta, she said like, I want to make this my own. I'm not just going to copy
Yeah,
Danny Boyle, and
yeah.
fair enough. And it wasn't an awfully
And
directed
Danny
movie.
Boyle's got enough balls and
It's
he's got enough
also-
under his belt that he can do what he wants
Yeah.
without any fear of...
It's also, to be fair to her as well, the script just isn't as strong as the first movie.
The script is 90% of the problem,
Yeah.
I would argue.
Another big problem is not only do you not follow Spike and have that central kind of journey and whatever, but also like the there's no real central conflict or villain.
Yeah.
So the movie just kind of drags and then fizzles out at the end.
I kind of, in a way, it got a bit boring when it's
Yeah.
kind of just like, you're there with Jimmy and he's talking about Saint Nick and you kind of just like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, move
I
along.
just move something along.
Not to spoil it, but the Jimmys spend a lot of time at one house torturing the same couple of people, and that's most of the movie. There's not this journey. There's not this road movie element that there was in the first
there's
movie.
an element-
There's not this fantasy element that there was in the first movie.
Because like the first movie, the 28 Years Later film, has an element of that kind of like Heart of Darkness element to it, right? Where you're traveling deeper into the forest of danger.
Yeah.
And they don't do that in this movie. There's no...
Well, that's
They're not scared. They're not,
Even the zombies, like, there's not like a
No.
fight
threat of
from
them.
there's not a lot of
and there's-
zombie
yeah.
stuff.
The
There's like-
Jimmies are so used to killing them that they might as well not even
Yeah,
be there.
it's that they have that power level where the zombies aren't a real threat, so we don't end
Yeah.
up seeing the zombies. Because
again-
the zombies aren't the scary, the people are scary, damn it.
That's what I was going to say. It's like,
And it's
yes,
like,
we
yeah,
get it, that the real threats are the humans, but that's why I thought the journey was going to continue through like different different settlements, which eventually I was like, oh, eventually that's going to lead to Jim, the Cillian Murphy's character from the original film, which it doesn't in that way. It leads to him in a much more...
I mean, and outside of
Dumb,
Marvel-esque,
annoying way.
Easter egg kind of ending.
One of my big issues, I have two big issues, but I'll only say the one now because I think Alan deserves to have a say. I think he's just been sitting there quietly. There's not enough set pieces in this film, which you alluded to already. There's the train. We see the train that's in the first one. We see the Bone
Which we
Temple.
already saw in the first, yeah.
And then that's kind of it. You get a couple of random houses, but it's like, why did we not build sets? Why are we spending all of our time in the same locations we've already seen? This is a part of the reason why the momentum is so stunted.
Yeah.
Is because they're not going anywhere new.
And
for the audience, it's not visually interesting because we've already seen these places before.
And I know, again, like this version of the script, this story is supposed to be slower than the first part. But one, that just brings the whole journey to a halt. And like I said, you lose the emotional sort of growth. But also, like, the things they are exploring, the themes and whatever, it's like there's like we said, like there's like maybe half an hour of good stuff there, and then you got to move on.
Yeah.
Like, to drag this out for 2 hours, I was like, okay, we get it. Dr. Kelson's empathetic. Jimmy Crystal is violent. Okay. Okay. Now what?
The other issue I have, sorry, Alan, and I'll keep it spoiler free. But we get into a point, so the 28 Years Later original film, it already tried to recontextualize the rage zombie. But it was really effective when it did that. It had the evolved version.
Yeah.
Some of them were sluggish, like Last of Us style zombies.
The bloaters.
Yeah, exactly. And then you had the alphas, which are the more threatening ones.
Yeah.
Like there was a whole variety of them. Whereas in the original, they just run, they get mad.
Yeah, the virus had evolved over these decades of...
Now, I really like the original zombies.
Yeah.
Just because it's the concept of
They're terrifying.
pure hate.
Yeah.
Then there's no other...
They're not undead. They're people who have had their rage completely
permanently
turned up
switched
to...
on,
Yeah, to like levels where normal, like your grandma will like stomp a baby's face in kind of thing. It's an inhuman level rage where it's like all you think of is killing. 28 years later began the subversion or recontextualization of this. This leans into that even harder to the point where it reaches levels which I feel are just eye-rollingly dumb.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we don't need to over-explain it. We don't need to subvert it.
And if the solution was that easy, which we're not spoiling it, right? Then why hadn't that happened in...
It would have already been figured out.
It causes loopholes in the earlier film.
It raises more questions than answers, but also it leaves the third film in a sort of delicate situation where, depending on what they do, again, we don't know what they're going to do with the third film, but it's like, oh no, is like half of the third film going to be about, all this sort of stuff? I don't want to spoil it, but, is it going to drag on into the third film where like instead of having this cool journey and this action and horror and stuff, it's like instead it's going to be about like finding the cure and
it also dilutes the horror too. When you over explain it, it just weakens the horror aspect completely.
Also, it's like part of the horror is like, oh, there is no cure. Like the UK has been completely quarantined. And everyone's moved on. The rest of the world has moved on, and they're just in the dark ages, and that's terrifying. And now this version, it's like, well, it's not so bad now, and there's some bad people, but there are also some nice people, and they just sit around for a bit, and then there's some da-da-da, and I'm just like, okay, whatever, I don't care.
Also, like the Jimmies wouldn't have been assassinated already.
Well, I mean, that's the thing.
The people from the Hamlets would have sent out hunting parties.
But they wouldn't, because they don't want to take that risk.
I guess
so. And the Jimmies were shown to be like, the ultimate predators or whatever.
Yeah, true.
So, but that's not part of the problem. Part of the problem is we don't see anyone else.
It's just the Jimmies.
There's like an old man, a guy and a lady, and they never come back, and it's just like,
and that's it for England.
And we also don't see the little island town that Spike is from originally, which again in the first movie you're introduced, and then he leaves, and then it's like it would be a similar criticism that we're having of this is they go back to the same places, but. I'm not saying they should go back to that island and be like, let's explore. But there was stuff in that island where I was like, oh, this is interesting. What's going on here? There's this religious aspect, this cultish
they just left. I forgot about that.
With masks and
never got paid off.
Just never. And again, maybe we'll see it in the third movie. But I mean, we've just had this whole side quest. So that's just been a waste of time. So then eventually we can get a third movie, which hasn't been shot. I think it's been greenlit. The script is done, but they still have to shoot it. So who knows? That could be a couple years away. And after this, the Bone Temple, I'm kind of a bit skeptical about where they're taking the third movie. So
anyway,
sorry, Alan.
What do you think, Alan?
Well, again, to echo some of your sentiments, like. It's the Bone Temple. We already went to the Bone Temple in the first one.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that great.
It's a cool title for a film.
Yeah, it's a cool title, but it's like, when you already went to that place and you kind of covered a good amount of story there, and you kind of cleared out any kind of questions, not necessarily questions, but, you kind of understood that place, and it's not as ominous as you would think it is. Yeah. From the first film. So it's like, why?
The mystery from the first film has already been unveiled. Yeah, it's already been explained. So now we're just harping on it for
it's like, why is that the focus of this film?
Why aren't we moving on to new? Yeah. Why isn't Spike? Yeah.
Yeah, like, and it's just taking the focus away from Spike. Like, one of the, we'll call it, biggest scenes with him is when he gets kicked in the balls. Because
in this new movie
is basically just a scene where he gets kicked in the balls, right? Because that's his struggle of, he doesn't want to be leading down the path he's trying. He's trying to have an escape, and it's just him getting kicked in the balls. It's like, all right, look, that's
he's basically just a helpless hostage for the whole movie.
Yeah, and I'm
he
like,
does nothing,
I would have much rather, as you said, them gone around to a few different Hamlets, done this where the whole thing is wearing on Spike that he's part of this crew.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to be a part of this crew.
Yeah.
And then it finally comes to a head. Because like you said, they torture a group of people.
Or maybe at first he's like, this is really cool. I get to do whatever I want. I get to dress in a cool Adidas tracksuit. And then he realizes, oh, these are the bad.
He absolutely gets like
and then the further along in the movie he gets, the more covered in blood he gets.
I think
the angrier he gets.
He's like, this is fresh in it, bruv.
Until he meets his dad at the end, and he doesn't even recognize him.
It could be.
You know what I mean?
See, when 28 Years Later came out, there was the Jimmies. And then there was Spike's dad was named Jamie, and then Cillian Murphy's character from the first movie is named Jim. So I'm like, there has to be some sort of connection here, right?
All it was just Jimmy rustling of the audience.
Yeah, but exactly. So apparently not. But you could have done something like that, where the second movie he's going through hell with the Jimmies, and then Cillian Murphy shows up and saves him, and he's like, oh, this is my new dad, but where's his real dad, Jamie? Oh, here comes Jamie. Oh, you know. They could have done all this cool stuff.
But look, they even could have done it in a reverse Art of Darkness fashion, where he has to just escape back to the town while evading the Jimmies as they try and hunt him down, right? They could have done something just to increase the tension.
He could have betrayed the Jimmies, be like, I'm out here, I'm not doing this.
Maybe he could be like, screw this, my dad was right, I'm going home.
So it's like, but you know what? That at least would be more interesting.
Yeah.
In that he's trying to get back to the town.
A movement.
There will be a locomotion to it.
Yeah, this movie doesn't have... movement. It doesn't.
It's just going in a bit of a circle, like a long-winded circle, but a circle nonetheless.
Yeah.
Like, come on, do something.
And then kind of, I guess at the, no spoilers, but I guess at the end we're kind of just in the same position as
nothing. Like, we got nowhere.
Yeah. It's like it's the
It's just like
you can almost skip this entire film. Like you could go from 1 to 3 and you don't miss.
Except there's one new character they introduced who I don't think is particularly interesting.
I still think with maybe like a brief 30-second catch up, you'd be right just to skip this one. If the third one's good, it'll be a duology for me.
Yeah. Well, it depends what they do with another character, which again don't want to spoil. He's really, really big and tall. So it depends what they do with him.
Yeah.
I just
like again on the concept of, like, as Callum said, explaining the virus and the sickness further and opening it up to, like, we'll call it research into it and all that. Like you mentioned, if the rest of the world has still been alright, or there are certain factions and governments running, I'm sure that research would have been operating over the last 28 years.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like it's.
But I mean, that could have been part. That could be part of the story, or it could be even part of the backstory that you don't see. Is that maybe they even developed a cure, but they're not going to try to go in and give it to people.
I just like the idea of, like, it doesn't matter if you're a zombie. It doesn't matter if you're a human, animal. That H when it hits, chef's kiss. So addiction affects everyone.
And that's the thing, is there are parts of this movie that when we're quote unquote complaining about them, you'd think those are the moments we're complaining about. Those were actually, I think you guys agree, those are my favorite moments.
Yeah. There's a scene where Kelson dances with another character.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. There's just
really interesting scenes.
Those are great. And again, like maybe half an hour of really great stuff. So there's, I'm not opposed to what I was doing. It's just, it felt stagnant and it didn't.
Yeah, the thing with the Jimmies really weighs down the entire film. It spends too much time with Kelson, who we do like, but again, he shouldn't be the primary focus of the film. Neither should Jimmy Crystal.
Yeah, I think that's another problem.
It's Spike's story.
Exactly.
Except it's not anymore.
Yeah, now it's not. Yeah. And in the third movie, now it's going to be what? Cillian Murphy's story? So
Kills like, this is the son I always wanted.
No, it's gonna be from one of the other Jimmies who does appear towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
It'll be from their perspective.
Yeah, well...
It'll be a subversion once again, and then it'll just go nowhere.
I don't know. So it's disappointing for us. Look, at least everybody else seems to be thinking it's the best shit ever. So.
Well, that's there. I watched another YouTuber. I'm not gonna mention him, but he's far bigger than the Tuesday Review. But yeah, he's like, "Damn, this is good." I'm like, "Really?
It's interesting because there are people who hated the first 28 years later that love this one, and there are people that love 28 years who love this one, and there are people that hate both. There are people, and it's like, but I just find the reaction interesting because as someone who really loved 28 years later, one of the things I loved about it was how crazy and bold and weird it was. And this one's weird as well, and
so
I
kind of
appreciate
kinetic.
that. But it's more,
Yeah.
it lacks the kinetic of the first one, and it's like, yes, it's weird, but it's only weird because it's just kind of taking ideas from that first part and then sitting in them for a while,
Yeah.
and then that doesn't make it good.
It's one of those things where, and this time has proven us correct on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lot of time has to pass
We'll,
first.
we'll get a retrospective article on the internet in the next few years that's saying, you know what, maybe it wasn't that good.
like
after all.
5 years down the line, there'll be some.
Like,
There'll
we
be
were
some
actually-
hipster will be like, actually, it's not that.
We were
good."
eventually vindicated with Star Wars, and we'll be vindicated with this too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I mean, I'm more disappointed than anything
Yeah.
because,
That Alex Garland.
yeah, I mean,
Also, the
Every
D-box
time-
seats was...
oh yeah.
All right, so we tried the D box seats. Which what does the D stand for?
Directional.
Direction, maybe.
I don't
Anyway,
know.
whatever.
Dynamic?
D box,
dynamic
box seats, whatever. So,
douchebox.
and they move and they vibrate and they do the things. I had a great time with the D box seats.
I did not.
Nathan liked it the most.
Christian liked it.
That just because it kept him awake and off his phone, probably.
Among other reasons.
We're not
Yeah.
gonna get to
Well, yeah, and among other, yeah. But I think for this kind of movie, when there are jump scares and the chair would vibrate, there were some cool bits where the camera was kind of swirling
seat
and
would
the
move,
seat was
yeah.
sort of moving gently left, and I was like, that's cool.
And then my
But-
motion sickness was like, hey, buddy.
Yeah.
How y'all doing? And I was like, no.
But I think overall, I don't think it added a lot.
No.
I think it's film dependent.
this-
There was
Yeah.
a legit scene where I don't know what the chair did to me. It felt like I got punched by this chair. And I'm like, hey, I paid for this. I'm not getting beaten up at the cinema.
I think
I mean, it is broady, but you know, it's
what
not
I
fun
said
broady.
afterwards, I said this, like that kind of experience would be really good for something like Top Gun Maverick,
Yes.
Fast and Furious, F1 with Brad Pitt, something that's like, you know, lots of
They hit the
vehicular
nose and the
action.
seat goes back.
Yeah.
And, that sort of,
It would be like a good action kind of roller coastery action
Yeah.
adventure movie, whereas this is more like horror and like it was, you know, during the jump scares, it would
But
be like, oh, your chair moves.
I
And
think
was like,
I
yeah,
would
whatever.
I would do it again, but I think it's film dependent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have to be on like a big blockbustery action.
This was like a trial run for us. And again, I'm not saying I'd never go to D-Box again, but it's not.
I think it
it's not
depends
a
on
high
the movie.
priority.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, it wasn't an awful experience. It was interesting. It didn't ruin like the engagement with the movie.
No.
Like I wasn't taken out of the movie when actually in some aspects.
Except
it
for the
was
one
like-
time I nearly got punched by the seat, but I'm telling you.
That
I
was
ever
just
tell
someone.
you-
That was just someone holding my dick on.
I think I told you guys about this a long years ago, but when I was in London, I think I went to like the Marvel 4D experience or whatever,
yeah.
and there's the like when Spider-Man does his webs, it like shoots air in your face, and when the Hulk does his smash,
Yeah.
the chair vibrates. But what happens when Wolverine does his claws is you get punched in the back. So it feels like you're getting like jabbed in the kidneys. It was so uncomfortable. Like it wasn't sustained, but
No,
he would
but-
go like snick, and it'll go, and it'll be like, "Oh, my kidneys!"
Like how I don't want to pay to get hurt. That's hilarious. See, I thought this was gonna go somewhere else where you're like, yeah, and then Spider-Man shoots his webs and you end up coming out
This
wet.
white string
Yeah,
comes down.
or and they're like, hey, that's not supposed to happen, buddies.
just like,
Call security.
yeah.
There's viscous fluids everywhere.
On that note, we might go to a very quick break while we clean up the studio and be back right after these quick messages. You are back live on 98.9 Northwest FM. This is the Tuesday Review. Just finished talking about the Bone Temple, I suppose. Anyone else have any other final thoughts on the Bone Temple before we move on?
Probably nothing we can do without spoilers.
Yeah, if you watch 28 years later, you might as well watch this, but not at the cinemas. Probably watch it on streaming before the third one comes out.
Yeah. I'll be. I mean, like I said, I'm not really I'm worried about the third one, but I'm still curious
Yeah.
as to
Yeah, even
what
the
they're gonna
marketing for
do.
this one just wasn't there. Like the
Yeah, apparently
I
that's
do-
one of the things I also heard was a lot of people were like, I don't know this movie was coming out, or the Bone Temple. Like,
But
people weren't.
we talked about this with when part one, when 28 years later came out. It was like it ended on that cliffhanger, and everyone was like, "Oh, what the hell? That's ending." I'm like, "Don't worry, everyone. There's the second part." Which they don't advertise that unless you're like on the movie, social media, whatever. it's the same with like Spider-Verse, where it ended on this massive cliffhanger, and everyone's like, "What? You can't do that." I'm like, "No, they're already doing the second one." Fast and Furious, like, unfortunately with those movies, Fast and Furious, the next one's never going to come out. The new Spider-Verse is still at least a year away. And this one was shot back to back, so that's okay. But now there's a third one that hasn't been shot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it is annoying when they do that. But I mean, I guess they also, because Hollywood, they don't want to advertise that it's part one, because then it's like people are or part two or whatever. So, but maybe.
I don't know. Like I said, I think that we're getting into troubling levels of demythologizing and recontextualizing. It's weakening the entire franchise.
Marvelification franchise.
28 years later, the 28
franchise.
Hashtag
Yeah.
It's not a franchise. It was a respectable horror movie. You know what I mean? And like 28 weeks later was kind of panned, but it's still really good for what it is. It's like a drama, actiony, horror-y thing.
Yeah.
And then 28 years later was a great recontextualization of that, a great update to that world. Just a really interesting, like I said, horror fantasy film. And now we've got this bleh.
Yeah, we've got just the
And
side.
it kind of weakens the previous films because it's trying to intellectualize everything too much. And then the interesting stuff that number one does introduce, it ruins.
Sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll move on to something a little bit more positive. Now, I think James talked about this during his MIF journeys.
Oh, yes.
Left-Handed Girl was one of your favorites.
Yeah, I think it was my second favorite movie I saw at MIF. After It Was Just an Accident, which is the best movie I saw last year.
And I had a chance to watch Left-Handed Girl recently, since it came out as a Netflix original, in Australia at least.
Yeah.
And I thought I would do a quick mention of it because I watched it. I thought it was a wonderful movie.
It's got nothing to do with a girl in the olden times getting beaten up in an orphanage.
I
being
mean,
left-handed.
sort
There's
of.
an element of that.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Directed by Shih-Ching Tsou, if I'm not butchering that name. But otherwise supported by Sean Baker.
Well, let's be fair. She wrote and directed the movie.
But he edited it.
She
produced it.
She's married to Sean Baker, and she works on his films as well. And this film,
I'm not trying to take away from her.
But this film,
that's what I said. Otherwise supported by.
I mentioned it. I mentioned it when I talked about the MIF movies. Is this? I love Sean Baker movies, Florida Project, Tangerine, even Honora. And this has that kind of element of like little character movies, gritty, kind of grounded.
It has that vibe about it,
sort of.
And I definitely wasn't surprised. I didn't know he was involved in this movie until I saw the credits at the end, and I was like, "That makes a lot of sense,
right?" Yeah. So it's got a lot of that vibe, and it's just a great little human story, and it's just really fun little character. Sort of.
Nina Ye, who plays Ai Jing, is perfect.
The little girl.
The little girl,
she's
such
good.
a great little actress in this movie.
Yeah,
and
so
like
good.
just the facial expression she pulls, just like the actual vibe of the character is immaculate.
Yeah,
and it's just a wonderful little movie.
Yeah, it's a nice little movie. And since it's on Netflix now,
go support it.
And it's on Netflix, but it's not a Netflix quote unquote movie that you'd say, when we always
it's not content.
Yeah,
it's cinema.
It's a real movie. Imagine if One Battle After... Well, not One Battle After Night. I mean, imagine if Florida Project went on Netflix. It's that kind of...
Yeah, I watched this movie in two lots because I had to go to bed, and I finished it the next day because I watched the first 20 minutes or something, and then I watched the rest of it the next day because I couldn't tear myself away. It's so good. There's a few scenes in this movie, like when there's an apology sequence.
Yeah.
That was like almost very uncomfortable. And I'm like,
it's got those very cringy kind of real.
And I felt the uncomfortableness.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's great. Like
I
it was.
it.
I loved it. And scenes towards the end, the whole plot goes bananas.
Yeah. That's why I love that kind of crazy energy.
It really accelerates towards the end and it goes completely nuts, and I appreciate it. I just thought I'd give that a mention.
Yeah, it was really good.
And the other notable movie I've seen recently was Blue Moon by Richard
I also
Linklater.
watched this.
I thought it was an interesting movie because it's very just dialogue driven. It's very small.
Basically like a play almost. It takes place in one location, and
about Lawrence Hart and his kind of just alcoholic kind of just rants.
Yeah, he was a
diatribes
a lyricist, and in the like 30s and 40s, and he teamed up with composer Richard Rodgers. Is that right?
Something like that.
So in like the 20s and 30s and early 40s, it was Rodgers and Hart were the team who would like write songs and, you know, for the radio, but also for, you know, stage musicals and then movies. And then, so the Blue Moon is a Richard Linklater movie about Lawrence Hart. Rodgers wants to make a musical based on a play, which
from the 20s.
Yeah, which Hart is like, no, that's a dumb idea, and so he.
We're talking about different things.
Yeah, no, yeah. So the play that Oklahoma is based on early 30s, maybe whatever, but so instead of Rodgers and Hart doing that, the music and lyrics for that, Rodgers teams up with Oscar Hammerstein, so that's where you get Rodgers and Hammerstein. So they eventually do all the great, you know, musicals, which ends up being more successful and more famous than Rodgers and Hart were. And Blue Moon takes place shortly before Lawrence Hart's death on the
opening night
of Oklahoma. So, and it's basically him in a bar like across the street from the theater, and it's basically like him lamenting, you know,
just lamenting his life choices, and just the nature and philosophical nature of like love, friendship.
I think someone reviewed it or commented online something like it's like going to your ex's wedding. Yeah, it's like kind of like that. It's like he goes and he's pretending to be happy for Rodgers and he's like putting on a show, but in reality, then he's complaining behind everyone's back, and he's also like a very sassy kind of bitchy kind of diva kind of bisexual kind of.
But he resents that notion.
Well, yeah, but you know he's got that kind of you know, diva
demeanor,
energy, which of course at the time, you know, was, you know, dangerous to you know, be like that, but he kind of like embraced that, and he also suffers from alcoholism, which we see like in the movie. Anyway, Richard Linklater made this little movie with Ethan Hawke as Hart, and it's just a small little character sort of comedy drama sort of.
I thought there was lots of like lines and lots of like quotes. It's a very quotable movie.
It's well written, yeah.
It's well written. I also liked...
It's about the dialogue and the banter and the...
It's a banter movie, yeah. I also liked some of the filmmaking, how Ethan Hawke's quite a tall guy. And I like the kind of... The filmmaking where they make him look smaller than he is. Like it's the camera angles.
Yeah, in real life, Lawrence Hart was very short, so they made Ethan Hawke kind of look like a hobbit, and I guess they shot it like forced perspective or whatever.
There's a bit of forced perspective, a bit of making CG. Ethan Hawke wear really over big clothes, so he looks smaller.
There were a couple of bits where it just looks like he's like walking on his knees, and I was like, oh, that doesn't really work. There's some awkward shots. I think I didn't love I thought the movie was very good. I thought Ethan Hawke was very good, and some of the other performances were really good. Some of the other, you know, some performances weren't as good. I think one of my bigger problems with the movie is it didn't always look great. Sometimes it looked a bit fake Netflixy. Other points it was like, this looks nice, but
I noticed how it looked. Obviously, it looks a bit cheap in some respects, but I just think as the strength of the movie kind of lies in its dialogue and its screenplay. Yeah.
And I mean, it's also because it's set in that sort of the one location, you know, a couple different rooms maybe, but it is dynamically shot. So you're never bored of like just seeing the same.
It's not visually boring.
Yeah. So I think it's a good movie. It's interesting. I didn't really know much about Lawrence Hart. I'd never seen Oklahoma, so what I ended up doing is watching the 1955 movie version of the musical.
Was it good?
Which I was surprised. I really liked it.
Oh well,
I thought it was great.
Man, is that going to be the boys' next double feature? Watch the movie and then watch Blue Moon.
That's what I did. I watched Oklahoma and then I watched, because I'm like, I might as well you know, and I had it on Blu-ray because I got the Rodgers and Hammerstein set because it's got Sound of Music and The King and I, which I wanted, and it's got a whole bunch of other ones. So I was like, might as well buy the set. So I was like, well, might as well watch the Blu-ray since I have it of Oklahoma. And I was expecting, you know, 2.5, 3-star movie, whatever. You know, I'm not huge into musicals, but I do love old movies, and there are some musicals that I really love. And I was watching it, and as it went on, I'm like, hey, this is actually really good. I really liked it. It's a very simple kind of, you know, all the criticisms Hart has in the movie. Like, it's like, yeah, I understand why. It's a very kind of
corny,
naive American, you know, kind of
American exceptionalism.
Yeah,
kind of.
but it was just the movie version, the 55. The musical might, I don't know if seeing it on stage, I don't know how I'd feel about that. But the movie version that came out in 1955, I just love the cast. I love the sets. I love it was shot in Todd AO, which is like very wide aspect ratio. The Blu-ray version I have is the Todd AO version, which is very wide and plays at 30 frames per second, which is unusual. Most movies are 24 frames. So it just looked really nice. And I enjoyed the songs, and it was actually very funny. And it's a lot, I didn't know it was basically there's a lot of, what do you call it? Like double entendres. Like, it's very much about sex, but obviously they're not out and out saying it. So yeah, I actually really liked the Oklahoma movie. Oklahoma exclamation
mark
point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Lawrence Hart's probably turning in his grave. So sorry, but
sorry, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just thought that was fun, I guess.
Yeah, that's a movie.
And I'll have to watch Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's. I'd be interested to see what you think about it. You haven't seen Sound of Music, have you?
No.
I'd say watch that first, because that one's like top tier.
Yeah.
And I remember Callum watched it as well, and we were all talking about how awesome it was.
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain, sorry. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Singing in the Rain.
And the Sound of Music one where she sits on the acorn.
She what?
Sits on the acorn.
Sits on the... I don't remember that part. Maybe.
The guy's got a dead wife who's got like 50 kids. And like
with
the nun or something.
The hills are alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to watch Singing in the Rain. That movie
Singing in the Rain. You guys. Yeah. That one's top tier.
Love that.
Sound of Music. I haven't seen in a long time, but I'm going to rewatch it.
Sound of Music's the one with the Nazis. Yeah.
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 The nun and the Nazis.
Yes. Moving along. Anyone else got anything interesting for us tonight before we call it a day?
Just real quick. I wasn't on the show last week. But I know that the boys were talking about the Godfather movies. Having relatively recently watched the trilogy, I decided instead to watch Sergio Leone's rewatch for the first time in years. Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America, the sweeping gangster crime movie about Jewish gangsters instead of Italian. So good. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Well, now he's seen Godfather. He has
not reference,
a
point of reference.
Yeah.
But it's like 4 hours and 11 minutes.
It is an epic.
Edition.
That has an interesting story behind it.
So instead of going to like the church and confessing to the priest, they go to the synagogue and talk to the rabbi.
They don't even go to synagogue. It's just set in. No, I don't think they do.
I don't remember, but I mean. It's in New York. It's like the Godfather, but
4 hours.
It's about
even longer.
Instead of gabagool, it's bagels.
There's a little bit
of matzo ball soup.
There's still a little bit of gabagool in there as a part of the storyline. But the interesting thing is, it's not about like a big sweeping crime syndicate. It's just about a bunch of boys who start off getting up to no good,
street hoodlums,
like urchins, getting up to shenanigans, and then they get bigger, and then there's like time stuff, like it goes back and forward between times. And Robert De Niro is so good in it, and James Woods amazing in it. Which you would know from Family Guy. He's James Woods High or whatever.
I also know him from GTA San Andreas.
He's also in Simpsons when he's preparing for the role of the Quickie Mart owner. So he's
but anyway, I think
Jimbo redo the transaction.
I think you'd really enjoy it if you watched it. There's some great action sequences, some iconic cinematography. I was watching even the start of the film. There's a scene where a little girl is doing some ballet practice, and it's in like a little warehouse area, and there's like flour bags, and there's like flour in the air, and I was like, how did they shoot this? Amazing.
You've probably seen the shot, Alan, of just like between the two buildings. There's like the Brooklyn Bridge,
Yeah.
and you can just sort of see the.
Yeah.
It's like an iconic
And a
spot
kid-
where
a
people
kid
go and
runs
take
Do the
photos.
photography.
Yeah, and a
Yeah.
kid runs out as to tell the other boys that they're about to be chased. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, great movie.
Interesting story
You got
about that
it on
movie.
the old medias.
I can get it to you.
Excellent.
We have it on the physical media, as should everyone who
Mhm.
likes movies.
Yeah.
Interesting story. Correct me if I'm wrong, James, but this movie, when it originally came out, the theatrical edition was panned
It was, yeah.
because they cut like over
I
an
think-
hour of footage,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
was terrible.
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, "This is
I
shit,"
also
and Sergio
think-
was like, "It's not the movie I wanted to
I
make."
also
damn
I
it."
also think I can understand also people not liking it because the Godfather is about gangsters and it's this epic, but there's still this kind of sweeping romantic kind of and the characters whereas I feel like Once Upon a Time in America, the characters are more mean, they're more selfish.
There's a scene where Robert De Niro's character just straight up rapes a woman.
Yeah.
And the camera doesn't shy away from it, and you feel dirty watching it.
Yeah,
And
so-
it doesn't present a sympathetic view. It's just like, this bad stuff's happened and deal with it.
Yeah, so it's a more confronting, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right.
Perhaps more mean film than some other gangster.
Well, it's based on a true story, partially based on a true story.
yeah,
So it's stuff like gangsters in real life aren't like Michael Corleone. I mean,
Yeah.
some are, I'm sure, but
Well,
you know
yeah,
what I
I
mean.
mean-
Like some gangsters are just more like, what are those famous brothers that were played by the
the
movie?
Cray twins.
Yeah,
yeah.
some are just like the
Crazy
twins, and you just
psychopaths,
got to
yeah.
deal with it.
Well, we were talking about last week The Godfather. It's like, yeah, they have a code of honor and whatever, but at the end of the day, they're murderous.
Yeah,
They're
I
the Once Upon a Time in America is more just that.
And I think it's
interesting.
interesting that eventually, when the director's edition or director's cut did come out, it was then hailed as a
Yeah.
masterpiece.
Yeah.
And,
And as well,
then he was
I
like,
feel like-
"This is the version we wanted."
Yeah, but there are a lot of movies and directors
Yeah.
like that, and Sergio Leone was known for Good, Bad, and the Ugly and the westerns, and so he makes this crime movie, and people are probably like, "What the hell?"
An interesting thing is you can tell the scenes which were originally cut, kind of degraded. So when you're watching the extended edition, it'll cut to something which looks awful because it wasn't
We
the
talked
film
about-
wasn't looked after very well.
Yeah,
But then the actual what happens in the scene is so important. I'm like, how could you take this out? What producer was like, don't like it, remove
but
it.
there's so many stories like that where you
Yeah.
watch a movie and you're like,
Yeah.
how did the producers cut this? Why
There's
did
a scene. There's a scene where an older De Niro goes to a tomb, and he's like sitting in the what's the word, mausoleum. It's like one of those big places you can visit, and there's got the remains of the people in there. It's like a building.
Yeah.
with the big long wall with all
Yeah. And it's got this beautiful music playing, and it's really moving shot, and it's so central to where the character's at, and that was cut from
Yeah,
the original. And I was like,
but-
man, what are you doing?
But we gotta fit more sessions in for the screening, kid.
Yeah,
Like
this-
the
yeah.
producers with this, just be like, it got to be shorter. We got to
Yeah.
screen more. We're gonna make more money.
So how short was the cut version?
It's still long, like 3 hours
Yeah.
probably.
You gotta watch it though; it's good.
Yeah, this film requires the intermission. I suspect.
There is an intermission in there, but yeah.
Oh, look, if a movie's 4 hours,
Well,
I'm sorry, intermission,
Al-
please.
Did you? I mean, when you watched Godfather Part 1 and Part 2, I mean, you didn't sit there straight through the whole thing for both movies.
No.
Like you're still at home. It's not like you're at the cinema.
Yeah, but even number 2, I think when the intermission happened, I'm like, all right, time to hit the old dusty
Yeah.
trail, go to sleep, and then
Oh, you did that. See, I don't do that.
watch the second part of the film the next
See,
day.
I don't do that. I always watch a movie all at once.
Which I think was better for me because the dynamic of the film does change after the intermission. So
That's a
I
fair
got a
point.
fresher mind to it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts before we wrap it up for the night, boys?
No, I think that's good.
Thanks for listening, everyone. You can visit us and follow us on the socials at Tuesday Review AU on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Newsmast, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Tuesday Review AU. Please give us 5 stars wherever you listen. It helps visibility.
Leave a comment. Yeah.
Leave a nice comment.
Ring that bell.
Well, you have to leave a nice comment. Unless it's about me. Then I'll
Leave a mean
I'll
comment.
throw fists.
Well,
Well-
it still counts as engagement if it's mean, right?
That's
Yeah.
true. We're on Letterboxd. I'm Nathan B _90.
I'm Alum20.
Callum Tuesday.
Channel Drifter.
And we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening, everyone. Adios, cousins.